And we are back. Chris Mannix, Sergio Mora, he is the fighter. I'm the writer. Back again, back on different coasts, away from each other. Once again, it feels so good to be a country apart from you, Sergio. We've spent a lot of time around each other over the last few weeks. It's nice to get a bit of a break. You're on your own this weekend in Detroit. I will be on vacation, so I will not be in Detroit for the Claressa Shields, Lani Daniels showdown on DAZN. So we'll reconvene in Chicago a week after that. Are you good with that?
I'm excellent with that. I wonder why you decided to opt out of Detroit. First of all, what, you don't like Detroit? You're a big city boy? I love Detroit. Can't wait to go back. And two, your name and vacation just doesn't mesh. Somehow you'll find a way to work through it. Whoever you're going with is probably going to hate it. And take your SPF 1000 because I can't stand your skin under the sun. It's probably going to terrible. Yeah.
Oh, you know who I'm going with, Sergio. Someone whose skin will not burn quite as quickly as mine will.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I know that she bought a lot of sunscreen because she worries about you out there.
I would worry.
We worry about you every time I see you by the pool. You're like a melting snowman. It's only a matter of time. I think you have a timer on your phone how much you're allowed to be under the sun. You're like a gremlin with water.
All right, we're off to a great start here today. All right, on the show, we are going to talk about Alexander Usyk's place among the boxing greats. Daniel Dubois. People are talking, Sergio, about Daniel Dubois' approach to this heavyweight unification fight with Alexander Usyk. Tim Tszyu making the decision to fight on. Manny Pacquiao eyeing another welterweight champion for his next fight. And Xander Zayas in action this weekend, chance to fight for a world title. We're going to talk a little bit about his ceiling in the boxing space. But as always, Sergio, we have to start with our winners and losers of the week. So give me your first winner of the week.
Has to be Bam Rodriguez. I mean, stopping another champion, collecting another belt, and doing it in a strategic, careful manner, but still going for the knockout, trying to be exciting in his home state in Texas. He could have easily cruised into a one-sided decision. Bam Rodriguez, pound for pound talent, didn't want that, didn't allow that, found a way to stop a tricky Cafu. That's my winner of the week.
Yeah, you can't argue that. Two-time unified champion. I think he's the youngest unified champion that's out there, and someone with an extraordinary ceiling.
He has to be the youngest. He has to be the youngest. He's born
25 and unified. Yeah, I mean, look, we're getting close to Sergio to talking about Bam in these big fights, and I think we're going to see the next couple of years his stock just explode. My winner comes from the same weekend and the same day, actually. And it's got to be Alexander Usyk, who is now a two-time undisputed heavyweight champion, a three-time undisputed champion when you throw in the cruiserweight division. This is one of the most remarkable runs I've ever seen in any division in boxing, much less the heavyweight division. We're going to talk about his place among the boxing greats, but to have 2 wins over Anthony Joshua, 2 wins over Tyson Fury, 2 wins over Daniel Dubois, and a win over Derek Chisora, like the only real gimme that Usyk has on his heavyweight resume is that first heavyweight fight against Chaz Witherspoon, which was his first fight since moving up from the cruiserweight division. I mean, this guy has, in terms of a short resume, the best resume I have ever seen. Top cruiserweights, top heavyweights, and he culminates it with another win over Daniel Dubois. All the Dubois truthers that were out there, I know you were one of them, that questioned the legality of that low blow in the first fight. No issue in this one. This was a clean knockout by Alexander Usyk, so he is my winner of the week. On the flip side, Sergio, give me your loser of the week.
Loser of the week is whoever was spreading these rumors about Hamza Shiraz having loaded wraps when Hamza and Berlanga fought in the strictest commission in New York. I mean, I fought there before. They won't allow you to do anything that bends the rules there. So the loser of the week is Team Berlanga, and whoever spoke out, it made its rounds. That's my loser of the week, because trying to take away the shine and the great performance out of Hamza Shiraz and Team Shiraz and Andy Lee and everyone, that was deserved. You know, that was deserved, and they beat down Berlanga. Take your loss, lick your wounds like a man.
Yeah, that was a little cringy, kind of pointing to maybe discolorations on the wraps of Hamza Shiraz as some kind of evidence of foul play. I'm with you. New York is a very tough commission. I don't think Andy Lee, who's as respected as they come in boxing, was doing anything nefarious there. I didn't like that either. And like, to Edgar's credit, I don't think Edgar was out there pushing it. But yeah, I'm with you. Whoever believes that in his team is just completely dead wrong. All right, my losers of the week are boxing sanctioning bodies, which have a big fat bullseye on their backs should the bipartisan boxing reform legislation that was introduced this week by Congressman Brian Jack and Congresswoman Sharice Davids, if it becomes law. This legislation, which is called the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, is an update on the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act of 2000, which was preceded by the Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996. It's been endorsed by the Association of Boxing Commissions and Lani Ali, the wife of the late Muhammad Ali. So allow me, Sergio, some room to offer up my take on this, because it is a polarizing issue. I reported a nuts and bolts story on SI.com on Wednesday, and I've spent the last couple of days talking to boxing lawyers, to managers, to promoters, both large and small, and I've talked to fighters to try to understand the broader impact this legislation could have on the sport should it ultimately get passed. I also spoke at length to Congressman Jack, who is the driving force behind this bill. So let's start here. This is a bill that overwhelmingly benefits TKO, which is the WWE UFC parent company, which, along with Turki Al-Sheikh, formed a boxing promotion, which announced last March plans to form a new boxing league. TKO has been signing dozens of mid-level fighters. They're currently working on a TV deal. I think they're going to get one, probably one that winds up bundled with the UFC rights. And this league is looking to launch in early 2026. Under the current laws, the UFC model cannot exist in boxing. You can't be a manager and a promoter. You can't create your own titles. You can't have your own rankings. It's federal legislation. I will get to the other parts of this bill, the minimum purses, the plussed up medical. All that, though, is really window dressing. The key piece of this bill is that if it passes, the UFC model can come to boxing. A talking point that has been passed around is that this legislation does not touch the Muhammad Ali Act. And that is technically true. The current sanctioning body-based model has to continue to abide by the Ali Act. But what this legislation would do is allow the creation of a new system that does not have to abide by the Ali Act. It has to do some things, good things. It has to increase health and safety protections, establish comprehensive anti-doping programs, enact anti-betting policies, stuff like that. But these UBOs, which are Unified Boxing Organizations, would not have to adhere to the Ali Act. That's because this is not an amendment to the Ali Act. It is an amendment to the Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996 that creates a new system that exists outside of the Ali Act. So a key passage in the text of this bill is, quote, "A unified boxing organization shall be deemed to be in compliance with the requirements of this act if the UBO meets the conditions of the section which outlines the drug testing, the medical stuff, all the things that are in this UBO." The act it's referring to is not the Ali Act. It's the Professional Boxing Safety Act, which preceded the Ali Act. I know it's all kind of complicated, but this is operating outside of the Muhammad Ali Act. So what's the problem with this? Well, there are two immediate issues, and I'm going to categorize them as one that I care about and one I don't give a flying fuck about. Let's start with the one that I don't care about, and that's protecting the integrity of the sanctioning body system. The argument is that sanctioning bodies are independent and are legally required to explain their ratings. A UBO could come along and create its own rankings and not explain how they came to them. Those kind of rankings can be manipulated, and there is no protection or recourse for fighters if they are. And that's important because, look, if a fighter is ranked number 9, they probably make less money if they were ranked number 8 and 7, 6, and so on. So it is important to have a level of transparency with a ranking system. And I don't love any unilateral ranking system, but I also reject the idea that sanctioning bodies are independent. I reject the idea that sanctioning bodies operate with any ethics or are in the best interest of the sport. Among the reasons boxing is a mess is because sanctioning bodies have taken the power that the Ali Act gave them and abused it. I mean, technically each is independent, but it doesn't take an insider to see the coziness of some of the relationships. I mean, for years, Al Heyman and PBC did a lot of fights with the WBA, Top Rank now with the WBO. There are made-up titles. There are extra weight classes. There are rankings that are based more on relationships than on merit. And I'll give you a recent example. Diego Pacheco, the number 1 ranked super middleweight by the WBO. This week, the WBO dropped him 2 places. This is after Pacheco, who is undefeated, who is a career-long super middleweight, who has been rising the rankings, staying active. They dropped him after he pitched a near shutout against Trevor McCumbee, who was his best opponent to date. In his place at number 1 is Terrence Crawford, who has just 1 fight above 147 pounds, and that was at 154. In second place is Hamza Shiraz, who made his debut at 168 just 2 weeks earlier. So instead of being the mandatory challenger for one of Canelo Alvarez's belts and having the chance to become a world champion and all the money and prestige that comes with it, Pacheco is now sitting at number 3 with a murky path to a title. That is criminal. It's criminal. These sanctioning bodies have become a stain on boxing and have turned what should have been a symbiotic relationship into a parasitic one. So I don't love that argument for, keeping the current model in place, the protection of the Ali Act. But the Ali Act does have provisions that protect fighters. The most significant being a promoter's requirement to disclose the total revenue for an event before a fight. And this is an issue I do care about. This requirement is basically the money from the broadcaster, from the ticket sales, from sponsorships, all of it, all the money that's in the pot. A promoter oftentimes just wants the fighter to sign, doesn't even want to look at it. A fighter with a good manager or a fighter with a smart head in his or her shoulders, they're going to take it, they're going to read it, they're going to get a copy of it, they're going to take a picture of it because they want to know if the promoter is screwing them. That won't necessarily help them for that fight, but it will give them an idea of what financial ballpark they're playing in when they start negotiating the next one. If a UBO is not required to follow the Ali Act, then they are not required to disclose the total revenue. They may have to abide by state financial disclosures, but the majority of these disclosures are not as detailed as the ones required by the Ali Act. So if a fighter or a manager does not have access to the full revenue, there is a far greater chance that they can be taken advantage of. This is the kind of thing that caused a lot of problems in boxing before the Ali Act was introduced. So I think that is a looming problem. I mean, in the short term, for a lot of fighters, the UBO system will actually be a good thing. TKO is quietly amassing a pretty sizable roster, but the vast majority of these guys are mostly the kind of fighters that people have never heard of. I know a bunch of them. They're guys in their mid to late 20s, early 30s, couple losses on their record. These guys are getting very, very good contracts for fighters on that level. Money that they are not getting now. And for many, probably had no hope of getting. What I believe is happening is that TKO is trying to get enough fighters under contract in different weight classes so they can launch this league. They want to be able to do a top 10 in each division, so they're snapping up a lot of guys who really aren't top 10 fighters, those guys are being told, we'll sign you, and even if you lose, we'll bring you back. So a lot of B and C level guys are jumping at that type of opportunity. I should note, I don't think the TKO is going to be alone in doing this. I think it's very likely you see most valuable promotions try something similar with women's boxing. MVP has signed most of the top talent in women's boxing already, and they are aggressively pursuing more. If this legislation gets passed, I could very easily see MVP creating a UBO to create the MVP women's title or something to that effect. So short term, you are going to see a lot of fighters that benefit from this. Long term, not having Ali Act mandated financial disclosures, that could be pretty harmful to guys. Another concern I have with this legislation is what it means for club boxing shows. This was something I was tweeting about with my guy Gray Johnson over at BoxRec, who loves club shows as much as I do, probably more. Club shows are the lifeblood of boxing. This is where a lot of young talent develop. This is where they develop fan bases. I talk a lot on this show about Tommy O'Toole, the Irish super middleweight, big star in Boston. His fan base grows every single time he fights. Justin Figueroa, another example. There is literally one fighter who can sell tickets in Atlantic City, and it's Justin Figueroa. That's because most of his fights have been at the club level in AC. These shows are so important for the growth and development of boxing. And a concern is that a TKO league would siphon off talent that would ordinarily be competing at a club level. I mean, it's already happening. I know of several fighters who have signed TKO contracts whose local promoter was paid a fee to let them out of their contracts. So it's happening as we speak. Now, I don't think the rise of a TKO league is going to kill club shows. For starters, there are a lot of fighters on these club shows that no promoter, TKO, Matchroom, Golden Boy, that they're going to want anything to do with. I mean, a lot of these guys are fun fighters who can sell tickets, but they have no shot at competing at a world level. I do think a lot, though, of the headliners, the mid-level guys, they'll get picked off, which will weaken these shows, even if it won't kill them off entirely. Now, could these club shows become de facto farm systems? Maybe. And the small promoters that I've talked to wouldn't really hate that. I mean, running a club promotion is not a lucrative business. Most of these guys, they barely break even, or they make a couple of bucks. Lou DiBella, who ran some of the best club shows in New York, Broadway Boxing, he stopped doing them in part because they were a money loser. You know, these shows, most of them don't have broadcast deals, and if they do, it's nothing. I think some of these guys would gladly be a part of the TKO ecosystem, officially or unofficially, if an offer was presented to them. Now, everything you have read has mentioned the federally mandated bump in fighter pay and improved health coverage, the minimum of $150 per round, the minimum of $25,000 in health coverage. This is the sugar on top of it all, the stuff that looks good in a press release. To me, these provisions are largely meaningless. And this was something that I said to Congressman Jack when we spoke this week. I mean, the $150 per round is fine, though many promoters, even at the club level, already pay that. I also don't know how you enforce this part of the law for those that don't pay it. I mean, what you're relying on, I guess, is a fighter to report it or a state commission to flag it and then refer it to the DOJ, who would then, go after a local promoter, prosecute them? That just seems totally unrealistic. The medical stuff, that's fine too. But again, most shows, even at the club level, offer that kind of coverage. The real problem with insurance in boxing is getting these insurance providers to pay out. I have firsthand knowledge of what happens when a fighter suffers an injury in the ring and has to have surgery for that injury, and how long it takes to get a percentage of what that fighter is owed. It is months. And this is a fighter I'm talking about with a major promoter and a powerful lawyer. Imagine how difficult it is for an average fighter who needs like a $15,000 surgery to collect on that money. So it is meaningless to say you're offering $25,000 in minimum coverage unless you are requiring someone, the promoter, the state, the federal government, to guarantee at least $25,000 in coverage. To me, it's a toothless legislation otherwise. Now, I've seen a lot of smart people suggest that this is the beginning of TKO building the kind of dominance in boxing that it did in MMA. And look, maybe they're right. I'm sure that's what Dana White wants, what people involved in this want. And you can see the plan. Like, sign a bunch of mid-tier guys now, have a contender-like series next year, then get a couple of A-level guys and slowly acquire talent using opportunity and Turkey's money to lure them over. I mean, these are smart guys we're talking about that are organizing this. UFC was a sideshow when Dana White bought it. Now it's a multi-billion-dollar entity that has lapped every boxing promotion out there. UFC is sifting through billion-dollar offers for its rights fees. After this weekend, boxing will be off linear TV completely for the first time in nearly a century. I mean, the time to make a move like this is exactly now. But a couple of things there. People have tried to monopolize boxing before. That part is not new. And boxing, one of the few things it's pretty good at is resistance. I mean, Al Heyman had a plan in the early teens when he formed PBC and cut all those broadcast deals. Eddie Hearn had a plan when he hit the U.S. in 2018 with all the DAZN money. None of it's worked. I mean, UFC has had competition over the years, but nothing that was as entrenched as Golden Boy or Top Rank or Frank Warren or Eddie Hearn. And as long as these promoters have broadcast deals, they are going to be able to sign fighters. They may have slimmed down businesses, but they will stay in business. I also think traditional boxing promotions will still be appealing to top prospects because they can point to a history of success that they have had turning prospects into stars who make a pile of money. I mean, Top Rank is the best in the business at this. Golden Boy is great at finding the Ryan Garcia, Floyd Schofield like diamonds in the rough. Matchroom has proven in the last few years it can take guys like Raymond Ford, Richardson Hitchens, Diego Pacheco, and elevate them to championship levels. And here's the other thing to kind of bring it full circle as I wrap up here. The current model has the sanctioning bodies. As deplorable as I find the behavior of all of them, fighters do care about these belts. I'm not even talking about the world championship belts. I'm talking about like the NABF titles and the continental titles and the European titles. They carry these belts around with pride. One of the biggest challenges I see TKO facing is getting fighters to care about a TKO branded title. Like, deprogramming them from their traditional system is going to be hard. I mean, they want to win the belts that Ali held, that Sugar Ray Leonard held, that Marvin Hagler, Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, that they all held. So if I'm a sanctioning body, this is maybe my final message to them. I'm seeing this legislation and I'm viewing it as a warning. I'm viewing it as a wake-up call. They need to clean up their acts. No more interim titles, no more phony world titles, rankings that are a meritocracy and not influenced by what promoter or manager shows up at your convention. These sanctioning bodies have spent 25 years taking advantage of the Ali Act. Now that it's under stress and potentially being changed, maybe it will shock some of them into actually caring about it. So I know that's a lot to digest, Sergio, but I'll ask you this. You're the former champion, longtime fighter. What was your experience like with the Ali Act, and how do you feel about it potentially being changed?
Forget a lot to ingest. That was a lot to digest right there, Mannix. But see, this is the thing where you're dealing with fancy lawyers and legalities and reading between the lines, because the Muhammad Ali Act came around when I turned pro. I turned pro in 2000, and it sounded great. I remember my trainer, Dean, was saying, hey, listen, we're going to know everything the promoter makes, everything the venue makes. We can go and look at the receipts. We can do everything. Sounded great, because we're not going to leave no money on the table. But then when you have those big fights, when I finally had the big fights, championship fights, and we asked the promoter, we asked our manager, our advisor to go look at the receipts, for some reason, we were never in the plus. We were never in the surplus. We were never in the, we sold this much of merchandise. We sold this. We never got a piece of the action. It was always, nope, it was less than we expected. Pay-per-view was less than expected. This was less than expected. Tickets didn't sell. And Muhammad Ali Egg didn't work for me, at least. And a lot of fighters similar to me. I can't really recall one fighter that fought on the championship level that said, hey, the Muhammad Ali paid me more money. Nah, man. It's a legal term. It's legal gibberish for the people that are in charge of our careers, and they're the ones talking behind the scenes. But for the boxer, personally, I had no good come out of it.
All right. I'm sure this is something we're going to be talking about in the coming months as this legislation works its way through the government system. It has been introduced. I was told it's probably going to get a hearing in the fall, and the hope that the sponsors of it have is that it becomes law before the end of this year or early in next year. We'll see if that happens, but it's definitely something worth monitoring in the months to come. All right, let's get into it. And let's start with Alexander Usyk, the once again undisputed heavyweight champion after knocking out Dan Dubois. Just a fantastic performance by Usyk, who left no doubt who was the better fighter between himself and Dubois. And as we look forward, Sergio, we kind of spin this thing forward. The question has come out about where Usyk stands among the all-time great heavyweights. It's a conversation you have to have when you have a guy who was a two-time undisputed champion in the four-belt era and is also an undisputed champion in the cruiserweight division. So I want to ask you the question this way. When you look back at the history of the heavyweight division, all the greats that have come and gone in that division, give me three fighters that you think Usyk would have had a lot of problems with, and give me three fighters that you think he would have handled.
Well, since Usyk was a smaller heavyweight moving up in weight to these giants that are 6'6" plus, 260 pounds plus, I would have to go back to not that long ago, maybe just 40 years ago. Look at any great back then heavyweight. Joe Louis, I know it sounds like blasphemy, but 6'1", 215, 218 pounds at max, flat-footed, different style. Any Rocky Marciano, another one. Yes, big power if you stand in front of him. Usyk does not stand in front of you. So Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis, and I got to go with Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was great, but we saw what happened when he fought Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is the same height, around the same weight as Usyk. Different footwork, but it was the footwork that beat him, and it was the jab. And from the southpaw stance from Usyk, I think Usyk beats all these all-time great heavyweights from the past because just different generations and fighters grow bigger, stronger, and faster.
So you think he would have had problems with the guys you mentioned? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think he beats those guys.
You think he beats those guys? Oh, okay. So I go the complete other way on this. Usyk has shown during this run at heavyweight that he's really good at fighting bigger men. Like all these top heavyweights that he's beating, Chisora aside, have been a couple inches or more bigger than him. AJ, Dubois, Fury, and Usyk has found a way to handle them. If you go back and look at some of Usyk's toughest fights, at least on the scorecards, like they have come in the cruiserweight division when he's been fighting guys that are more his height, that can match him in footwork and hand speed. They're not better than him, but they can match that. So I go kind of the other way. I think Usyk would have done extremely well against someone like George Foreman. I think he would have done well
Really?
against Vladimir Klitschko. I think Lennox Lewis, the last version of him under Emmanuel Stewart, would have been problematic because of that jab, and that was a power shot, and he really locked in with Manny Stewart. But I think Usyk would have succeeded against Lewis as well. Where I think he would have struggled against the guys you're talking about, like Muhammad Ali, the footwork, the hand speed, the volume. Joe Frazier, significantly shorter than some of these guys Usyk has fought. Evander Holyfield, another ex-cruiserweight champion turned great heavyweight. Like, I think the guys that were his height who had a comparable skill set, those are the guys that Usyk would have had the most trouble with. Not to say he couldn't have beaten those guys. I mean, in addition to being a three-time undisputed champion, Usyk is also an Olympic gold medalist. So he is an all-time great, full stop. But I think the taller guys that were all-time greats, Usyk would have done well against. I think the shorter guys, who matched his skill set, he would have had problems with.
That's a good observation because shorter fighters that are accustomed to fighting longer, taller fighters, they make a career doing that. It's the guys that are the same height or even shorter that give them issues. Evander Holyfield would have given Usyk issues because Evander Holyfield knew not only did he have the Olympic pedigree, but he was a dog. You know, he took a big punch. He was strong on the inside. He was physical. He used aggressive tactics. You know, sometimes using his head. But that's what you have to do to win, you know, as long as the referee lets you get away with it. So it's just two different styles of fighting, two different eras, and size, man. Size matters in heavyweight division. But yeah, certain heavyweights give other heavyweights a lot of trouble. I don't care how big you are. If you ever watch Kwawi, a fighter that gave Holyfield issues, he was smart. Dwight Muhammad Kwawi, that was his name. This guy was an animal, you know, on the inside. Shorter fighters know how to fight small, you know, and they know how to loop their shots. And Evander wasn't a big heavyweight. Evander was about 6'2", 6'3", until he started putting muscle on. So, yeah, on the inside, Evander would have been one of them. But other than that, if you go back in history, I'm talking about like the greatest of greatest names. And I know it's going to sound blasphemous to like the boxing minds out there, but, you know, Jack Dempsey and Langford and all these greats from the past, it's just a different era. They were too stiff. They were a little bit robotic. They have flat feet. They'll punch your lights out if you stand in front of them, but that's not the case in this era of boxing.
Yeah, I think you've got to look at, I guess, kind of the 60s and later to find guys that would be, I would think would be truly competitive against Usyk. You know, they're cut out of that Frazier, Ali mold, Holyfield mold. So I think that those are the guys he would struggle with. But I'd love, hey, let's get our boy Todd Grisham up on Undisputed to have simulations. I want to see simulations of Usyk against all these guys to see how it would all work out, because that's the only way we're ever going to.
Yeah, why don't we get a 50-year-old man trying to play video games to show us how to display the boxing technique here? There you go.
All right, I'm just saying it. All right, let's talk about Daniel Dubois, who has had a very strange week. He's faced a lot of criticism over the last week for his performance against Alexander Usyk. I know you have criticized it. I saw Joseph Parker criticizing it, Lawrence Okoli criticizing it, Carl Froch criticizing it. That's been dissected. But in the last few days, there have been reports that Daniel Dubois, or at least people at his house in the hours before the fight, were having a party of some kind. This is hours before Daniel Dubois was scheduled to face Alexander Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight championship. It was also reported that because of these circumstances, Dubois had to walk part of the way to the arena. Just some crazy stuff that's out there about the hours before Dubois fought Usyk, which again supposedly made him late for showing up than the time he was originally going to show up there. So Sergio, putting aside the performance itself, we discussed that on the last show. What do you make of, you know, a house party being held at the home of Daniel Dubois hours before he was scheduled to fight for the undisputed championship?
I don't blame the party, because that happens in every championship fight. I blame Dubois for being at that party, being thrown by his friends on his behalf. You do that afterwards, the celebration afterwards. That's what you train so hard for. It's his fault. It's his team's fault. It's his manager, trainer, whoever was part of him, bringing him to that house. And if they were there, they have some fault as well, because he's fighting for history. He's fighting for undisputed against a guy already knocked you out, against a guy that already has been in the ring with you. There should have been fear there. There should have been respect for the title, and there should have been focus. Champions before a fight are focused. Most of the time they're quiet in a room with their team. They're eating together. They're walking together. They're going anywhere together because it's a championship team. You know, you're not by yourself at that time. And you don't want to be smiling and dancing and having fun and being around, you know, people that just want to celebrate before a fight. You're celebrating a championship. It's like you're celebrating the opportunity that you're given. You're celebrating the potential millions of dollars that you're about to make, but you're not concentrating on winning. That's a slap in the face of all the Dubois supporters, all the Dubois fans that have really put themselves, invested themselves in him for him to do that. Even Mannix, even Floyd Mayweather Jr., who was recorded going to nightclubs in the middle of training wouldn't do it the day of his fight. Floyd Mayweather Jr. was gifted. He would go to a nightclub in training camp and then at 4 a.m, leave that nightclub, put his running shoes and go around Las Vegas running. That took dedication, and that took, something that not many people can do. Not even Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who was lazy, would have a party the day of the fight. This was a lack of focus and maturity, and a lack of having a team to tell you, man, what are you doing? So a lot of people look bad in this decision.
Yeah, I don't know that a fighter needs to be locked into a sound room and only talk to one person before the fight. But I don't know how you can be properly focused if there's a party going on around you at your house. It's one of the crazier stories I've heard. I mean, especially when you consider the magnitude of this moment. Like, this was the biggest moment of Daniel Dubois' career. He had done so much to earn his way back to get this opportunity. 2 years ago, he was crushed for, being called a quitter for what happened against Usyk. He wins 3 fights in a row. He gets back in position. He's improved as a fighter. Don Charles has reinvigorated him as a trainer. And then you hear that there's like a party going on around him. It's just crazy to me. And I think the people around Dubois have to have some responsibility for this. Certainly Dubois for being there has to take some responsibility for this. But like, you got to make sure before a fight like this that everything is going exactly the way it needs to go. Not to say it would have made any difference. Like, Usyk might have done the exact same thing to him. Usyk is a generational great, as we talked about, and he picked Dubois apart. That jab was working, the power shots was working, and that left hook he dropped Dubois with, that was a brutal punch. But I don't know how you can say you're fully locked in when you have stuff like that happening around you. So that's something that, whether it's his promoter, his managers, whoever is part of like his team, they've got to, he's 27 years old, so he's going to try to fight again. Like, he already put this on social media. I'll be back. He's got room chronologically to bounce back, but there's got to be something that changes, within his group, because that is, to me, is just crazy, like how that all played out.
I got heat for saying that Dubois is missing a heart gear, that he has no heart for the fight. But basically, at this point, when you're hours away from the fight, you have no responsibility or focus for the promotion. You know how much money was invested to put that fight together, and how many people are working hard for you, for 2 men to get and fight for history for four titles in the undisputed era, and for you to be smiling and partying and being on social media and being I mean, there's a difference between being relaxed and smiling, listening to music in your dressing room, and being at a damn party, recording yourself, with all your friends from day one. That's their championship. For their friends, for his friends and his team, that's their championship. That's like, we made it, we're a part of it. But that should be happening afterwards, after the event, after the fight. Win, lose, or draw, it's okay. You fought we got this far, man. We got this far, and there's things to be proud of. But before the fight, doing that and being so happy and giddy, it's a terrible look for Daniel Dubois, who's already fighting criticisms for other things in other fights. So now he's going from fighting low blows to fighting accusations of quitting to now fighting responsibility and lack of maturity and being at parties the day of the fight, lacking focus. Come on, man. It's 3 strikes. That's how many strikes does this kid get?
I'm still rooting for him. Like, I think what I saw against AJ Hrgovic, Jarrell Miller, like, there's real talent there. He wound up winning a world title. Like, there's real talent there. He's still part of that kind of next generation of heavyweights that's out there. And it's interesting, like, some of the people that criticized him, like the Joseph Parkers, the Lawrence Okolis, they're still active fighters. And I saw Don Charles on TV saying, all right, like, if you guys think that my guy swallowed it, the British term there, then let's get in the ring. And look, we almost saw Dubois against Joseph Parker earlier this year. We could certainly see Lawrence Okolie against Dubois. Those are big dust-ups in the UK. I just think there does need to be some changes that his team will have to address as his career moves forward. All right. Let's talk about Tim Tszyu, who also had a tough weekend last weekend. Tim Tszyu, the former world champion, knocked out by Sebastian Fundora, does not leave his corner after the 7th round. It's really been a tough year for Tim Tszyu. He lost his title to Fundora last summer in a somewhat controversial fight that was marred by the cut that Tszyu suffered because of the elbow of Fundora. Next fight, he gets knocked cold by Bakram Mutsalayev. Not a great moment for him. He comes back, he beats Joey Spencer over in Australia, and he comes back and fights Fundora again, and it goes even worse for him this time around. Tim Tszyu took to social media and said he's going to keep going. 30 years old, Sergio. Do you think Tim Tszyu can bounce back?
I know what you're doing now, Mannix. I've been getting a lot of calls from people that are in charge of my job telling me to tread lightly with the things I'm saying. You're setting me up for failure here, Mannix. You are setting me up for failure. So let me flip that on you. Why don't you answer this question first? Why don't you be the bad guy? What do you think Tim Tszyu? Should Tim's... Wait a minute. Let me set you up.
Okay.
So, Chris Mannix, I ask you, Tim Tszyu, 3 losses, 2 by physical knockout, back-to-back against a 6'6" behemoth in Sebastian Fundora. Is this man shot? Is Tim Tszyu a shot fighter, Chris Mannix?
No, Tim Tszyu is not a shot fighter. I think he's young enough to bounce back, but I think he needs to make substantial changes to his team and with the people that are training him.
You're such a freaking company man. You don't know
a company man.
We don't. Tim
Tszyu is a PBC fighter. Tim Tszyu, what are you talking about? Company man.
Does Tim Tszyu have a chin? Does he have punch resistance?
He went 12 with Fundora.
No, he doesn't. He went down in the first round against Fundora 3 times.
Fundora can punch.
In the second round, he can't take a punch anymore. His confidence is gone.
But this is, hold on. You just asked me the question, then you started answering. Can you let me answer the
because
question
you're being
first?
a company man and
I am not.
Saying all the right things your bosses want to hear.
There's no connection to Tim Tszyu and the broadcast network that we work for, just to be clear on that one. I have said this with you before, and I believe it now to be more true than ever. I think the people around Tim Tszyu have made some horrendous decisions when it comes to his career. The decision to take on Sebastian Fundora immediately, like with 2 weeks out after Keith Thurman bows out, going from a 5'6" orthodox fighter to a 6'6" southpaw was crazy. No, that should never have happened. And then when you get in the fight, to have a cut like that happen in the second round, when you could have said, this guy can't fight with this, we got to wave it off, it would have been a no contest. To not stop the fight then was awful mismanagement. The Murtalayev fight, you and I maybe have a difference of opinion on. Maybe you shouldn't have gone through with it, but it's like, we know Murtalayev coming off that fight is a killer. Before that, he hadn't really shown the killer stuff. Before that, he was the guy that was being paid money not to force Jermell Charlo into, defending his title against him. So Murtalayev was Murtalayev's coming out party. We now know this guy has some serious pop. But I have not seen dramatic improvement or any improvement from Tim Tszyu. Like, the chin may be a problem, but the lack of head movement is a problem. The lack of footwork is a problem. The skill set needs to be improved. I still think there's talent in Tim Tszyu, but I think the skill set needs some serious work. And I think if he goes, if he takes a step back, goes back to Australia, changes up things with his team, takes a bunch of low-level fights, this time next year, we could see Tim Tszyu, in a makeable fight or marketable fight. That's my point. I think he has been diminished as a result of this year. There's no doubt about it. But he's not 37 and diminished. He's 30 and diminished and showed a lot of good things before this year happened. So yeah, I think there's redemption, I think, for Tim Tszyu.
Well, redemption didn't happen for his father, Kostya Tszyu, when he got knocked out the first time. And I think it was Vince Phillips. And then he went on a winning streak. He came back. He got to the championship level. But ultimately, I think he was in mid-30s, no more than 35. He got knocked out again by Ricky Hatton. We never heard him again. We never heard from the great Kostya Tszyu. He was a great fighter. Tim Tszyu had that potential. He won a title. He should have defended it a couple times, just like his father. He should have won some money. He should have built his name, built his legacy, continue the legacy. But instead, his pride got to him, and ignorant decisions by a team to go back to the fire and face the Towering Inferno. It wasn't smart. It was disrespectful, actually, because they should have known better. They should know better. He can't take a punch anymore. Once a fighter gets cracked, think Meldrick Taylor after the Chavez fight. He was never the same. Man, Meldrick Taylor should have been great. Should have been an all-time great, and because they didn't they're wrong decisions. That's what happened with him. They should have stopped. They shouldn't have stopped the fight with Meldrick Taylor. But decisions come and catch up to you, and that decision not to stop the fight with that cut in that first Fedora fight, that came back and bit him. The decision to fight Bakram Mursalayev next, that was a bad decision. And then to fight this guy again in a rematch when you don't need to do that, that's just another three strikes and you're out. So yeah, he's a shot fighter. I think he's done. And Tim Tszyu, we'll never see him on a championship level again. Forget win a world championship. I don't think we'll see him on a championship fight on a high level again.
I think we will. I think he's a big enough name in Australia, sells enough tickets in Australia to get to that level, and we'll see. But I do think there needs to be major changes in the camp of Tim Tszyu. All right, let's talk about Manny Pacquiao, who is fresh off the draw against Mario Barrios. Pacquiao says he is going to fight on, that he is back to being a full-time fighter, 46 years old, still feels great, wants to win a world title. There was talk immediately after the fight about a rematch with Barrios, but Sean Gibbons, the manager / advisor for Manny Pacquiao, he came out and said that Pacquiao's target is Rolly Romero, the WBA title holder, who is eventually going to be elevated to full world champion once the Boots Ennis stuff settles itself out. What do you think, Sergio, of Pacquiao going from a title opportunity against Mario Barrios to one against Rolly Romero?
Well, as far as Pacquiao goes, I had issues with him coming back at 46 years old, but we saw how he looked. We saw flashes of his old greatness. So he didn't look half bad. And I think, yeah, he had a performance where he deserves one more chance at another, quality fight. I don't think Rolly Romero's that quality fight, but Rolly Romero has a world championship. He has a
title fight, yeah.
So good for him, and credit to Rolly Romero. He continues getting big names. He got knocked out by Tank. He got knocked out by who's that other guy?
Isaac Cruz.
He got knocked out by Pitbull Cruz. He won against Ryan Garcia. Now he's going to get a living legend in Manny Pacquiao. I'm telling you right now, Rolly Romero is this generation's Ricardo Mayorga. Bad technique, big power, can sell a fight, and will continue getting a big name because promoters can sell him. So credit to Rolly Romero, man. I think he's going to get the Pacquiao fight. It makes sense.
Rolly Romero, he really talked his way into the Gervonta fight. He had a credible record leading into that fight. But it was really his ability to sell it that made him appealing to Gervonta's handlers. He moves up and he gets kind of a gift for a title because that Barroso win was definitely marred by controversy. Then gets squashed by Isaac Cruz, moves up and fights well against Ryan Garcia. Fought a pretty disciplined fight and beats Ryan Garcia in a win that he wasn't expected to get, and now is going to be a full world champion because Boots Ennis couldn't do a deal with Brian Norman or anybody else at 147, and he's moving up in weight. And that's a long way of saying, Pacquiao returned to the welterweight division could not have happened for him at a better time because, Barrios was there as a title holder, and we could see last weekend that Barrios is a weaker champion. Now you've got Romero, who still has not fought a real welterweight. Ryan Garcia was a guy moving up in weight, had never fought fully at 147. So Pacquiao gets Romero. If I play that out in my head right now, based on what I saw from Pacquiao, I'd make Pacquiao the favorite in that fight. I think he can outbox Romero. I don't think he stops him because I don't think the pop is really there anymore. But the activity, I think that's going to be a lot for a fighter that also fought at lower weight classes. So whatever. If Pacquiao wants to keep going, have at it. I think Rolly is definitely a winnable fight.
Yeah, and whatever is how fans are going to respond to this fight, because whatever is how they responded to Pacquiao's last fight against Mario Barrios. There's no itch for it. There's no fire there. It wasn't a huge Manny Pacquiao fight week, and that's how it's going to be if he fights Rolly Romero. But we'll watch, and I think Romero will have his moments of success, but I think ultimately the experience, the tight punches from that southpaw stance, even though it's not quick in and out angle, fighting from Pacquiao, I think just experience alone, him able to keep his chin tucked in, and the technique will cost Romero. Against living legend, a guy who knows how to fight tired, fight championship rounds. The bad technique always betrays fighters. So I think Pacquiao wins that fight and wins another title.
Incredible. And then maybe he can go back and unify against Mario Barrios. Like he could become a unified champion before he hits 50. I mean, that's got to be on the mind of people in his team that, like, maybe you don't want to fight a Brian Norman or somebody else, but if there are these opportunities against Rolly and a rematch against Barrios, these are winnable fights for a guy at this stage of his.
We'll be talking about Manny Pacquiao beating George Foreman's record at 45. Incredible.
But Foreman, though, Foreman fought a real puncher. Like, Foreman fought a dangerous guy at that time in Michael Mora. And the fact that he did what he did still stands as one of the great accomplishments in modern boxing history. All right, let's finish with a fight that's happening this weekend in New York. The last fight of the Top Rank on ESPN deal. It will be headlined by Xander Zayas, the 154-pound prospect fighting for the vacant WBO super middleweight title. He takes on Jorge Garcia Perez. That's a guy we saw, Sergio, a couple of months ago, beating Charles Conwell, upsetting Conwell to take the top spot in these WBO rankings. Zayas is an interesting prospect, great personality, good skills. I think he's a strong favorite to win this fight. You've watched him as he's progressed through the top ranks, so to speak. Do you think that Xander Zayas has star potential?
Absolutely, because he has the looks and the hooks, undefeated record, 22 years old. So there's a lot to market there, a lot to promote. And, we're always looking for the next Puerto Rican star, because they can be mainstream here in the States, especially in the East Coast. So, I think it promoted well, which they've been doing. I think Top Rank did a great job with him. They were patient with him. They got him to this level, this undefeated mark. He's ranked in some organizations, and I think he's ready to burst out. But the next challenge is he needs to beat a name, because right now only boxing people know about Xander Zayas. The casual fan doesn't, because he hasn't fought a B-side or an A-side. He hasn't fought anybody that people are familiar with. So I think that's the next step. He needs to fight someone that has been on this championship level, that's familiar by the casual fans, and he needs to beat him and beat him convincingly. And if he can get a knockout or some dramatic performance where it can be sent over and over on social media and all that, that's how you become a star. That's how you become something. And if it's not with Top Rank, it's going to be with someone else, because any promoter can market that.
He's definitely marketable. And I think this is a perfect fight for him. Perez is he's a journeyman. Like, that win he got over Conwell, he won clean, but before that, he has not shown that he's a high-level guy. And I think Zayas' boxing skills are significantly better. I think he's going to box his ears off over 12 rounds. I've watched a lot of Zayas fights, and I like the kid a lot. Like, he's a really personable guy, and a really I think he's a very skilled guy. The lack of power concerns me, right? Like, he doesn't have.
It always concerns you.
Well, he doesn't. Like, I think at a high level, you need to have some pop behind your punches. Like, for example, like, if this fight title is vacant because Sebastian Fundora vacated it to do the rematch with Tim Tszyu. If Zayas had to fight Fundora to win that title, I don't think he has the pop to back someone like Fundora up. Like, you've got the only guys that bother Fundora are guys with power. Like, Brian Mendoza was losing every round to Fundora, and then he dropped him with a monster shot. I worried that at 54 and eventually 60, because he's going to move up, like, does he have that pop behind his punches to make guys respect him? And you talk about this all the time, too, like when we do fights. Like, you got to get the respect of opponents sometimes. And I don't know if he has that pop. Like, I don't think it's going to be a factor in this fight against Perez. I think this is going to be a real coming out party for Xander Zayas. Great platform, great location, right opponent. I think this is going to elevate him to another level. But as I watch him, and again, I've been to a lot of his fights as he's been with Top Rank, like, does he have the power to get the respect of real top level guys? That would be my concern about Xander Zayas.
If he stays at 154, yes, I think so. And it's not going to be power. It's just going to be technique, strength, body shots, being able to not get hit with nothing cleanly. It can be a decision or a late round stoppage, but you're going to get respect out of opponents. I had no power. I won a title at 154. I was a natural 160 pounder. Xander Zayas is bigger than me. I've seen him in person. He's a muscular kid. He's a good looking, tall kid. He's already making 154, doing well at 154. I think he's going to be just He'll be a champion at 154. 160, it might get tricky. Maybe when he's a little bit older and he puts on that man strength.
Yeah, still only 22 years old. Like he's a young guy fighting for a world title.
At 154, he's going to be fine. I think if he's maneuvered well and not super carefully, but well, I think he's going to win a title 154. And I think he has a high ceiling.
Well, he's going to win a title in this fight. Like this is going. Like I'm convinced he's going to win going away. Like this, I think this is a lopsided decision win for Xander. I'm rooting for him. I like him a lot. I like his skill set. He's been developed well. Boxing needs Puerto Rican stars. They do really well fighting in New York City.
And I don't think, and you said Perez was a journeyman. I don't think he's a journeyman. He's a gatekeeper. There's a difference, man. Journeyman,
right, well, I think that's
they come to hang around. Journeymen don't come to win. Gatekeepers come to win. They come to teach a young kid a lesson. So you're giving Perez got to this level for a reason. I think he's a solid gatekeeper that Zaya should beat.
Yeah, you might be right. Gatekeeper, fine. This is a good win. Should be a good win for Xander Zayas. Then we'll see what happens to him after that. The other fight this weekend, Sergio, is the one that you are going to be at, and that is the Claressa Shields, Lani Daniels heavyweight championship fight. This is Claressa defending her undisputed heavyweight championship against Daniels, who is a light heavyweight title holder, widely regarded as a top contender in these upper weight classes for Claressa Shields. Claressa is unquestionably a great fighter. She is just a fighter that is struggling to find names and opponents that really generate mainstream interest. Like both of us were in attendance at the Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano fight, the trilogy completing event that sold out Madison Square Garden, that did a huge number on Netflix. Claressa's just struggling to find the kind of opponents that generate that type of interest. And Lani Daniels is a good opponent. And I think she'll be a tougher test for Claressa than her last fight. But she still needs that marquee name, like that opponent that really gets the interest of the boxing community as a whole. As you look at the landscape out there, Sergio, like what's the big fight that you want to see Claressa Shields in the next 6 to 12 months?
It's tough to find because, women, the pool of talent in heavyweight division, it's slim. But like I keep saying, even if you're not fighting like the biggest and baddest, most popular names, just staying busy. We saw what happened when Claressa Shields defended in Flint, Michigan. It was a sold out, crowded, passionate, rabid fan base. I enjoyed it with an excellent undercard as well. So as long as they keep doing that, they keep bringing her to that part of town, she's going to be selling. She's going to be popular. She's going to be on people's names. So if you can get another big name, I think Shadesha Green is the name to go. A big puncher, a popular name who just fought on the big stage, passed that test, and carry some pop in those punches. That's what Claressa needs to be fighting. People that actually have fought on the big stage, have heavy hands, and are not intimidated because they're either the same height or taller, but they're naturally bigger at that size against a great fighter in Claressa Shields that started her career at 154. So whether she's filling out heavyweight nicely, she's still a smaller fighter, a smaller great fighter moving up to face champions that are naturally bigger than her.
Yeah, Shadesha Green is a great name. We were talking for a while about Shadesha Green against Claressa a couple of years ago. Then Shadesha lost to Franchon Cruz DAZN, and that kind of ended that talk. But the way she fought and performed against Savannah Marshall, beating Marshall, becoming the second pro fighter to beat Marshall, that elevated her. And that put her right in the mix for a fight against Claressa once again. I think that would be top of list if Claressa's going to fight at 168 or above. If she's willing to go down further, though, I maintain that the best U.S. fight for her is Mikaela Mayer. And Mikaela Mayer, who has been trying to get a unification fight at 147 against Lauren Price, it hasn't happened. She's been looking to go down to 140 for a big fight. That hasn't happened. Mikaela Mayer's out there looking for something big. And if Claressa gets through this fight with Lani Daniels, there is nothing bigger in the U.S. than two former U.S. Olympic teammates going at it. The girl from Southern California versus the girl from Michigan. The naturally bigger girl versus the naturally smaller girl. Like this is a good fight, a really good fight. And one I think like Mikaela will be the naturally smaller woman, but she's going to be competitive in this fight. Like Mikaela's skill set is real. Like whether you put that in Vegas, Detroit, Southern California, I don't know. That's a big fight. So If Claressa wants to stay at these upper weight classes, doesn't want to cut weight down to 154 again, Shadaysha Green is obviously the right choice. But if she can get down to 154 pounds, it's a great fight, Sergio. It's a great fight between Mikaela Mayer and her.
I would tell you to slap yourself if this was men's boxing, telling you to, for a heavyweight to come down to 154 to fight a junior middleweight. But since it's women's boxing and heavyweight division is only 175-ish pounds.
Yeah, they're not that big. Yeah.
Not even that big. So for her to be able to drop to 154 and meet in the middle, it's not a bad idea. Not only that, but they're not high percentage knockout punchers. So the power is not going to be an issue here. It's going to be footwork. It's going to be speed, experience, chin resistance. These are all things that make boxing fun as well. It won't be a knockout, but it will be fun fight. All these fights are fun because they throw a lot of punches on the championship level. When you give them the big stage, man, women fight just as exciting, if not more exciting than men, because they take more punches. They have to give more punches, and it's exciting when both of them are going at it. It's usually a war of attrition instead of a one-punch beatdown or knockout.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I think Shadaysha Green winning was one of the better things that could have happened to Claressa Shields because it opens up that possibility. And Mikaela Mayer being out there as a world champion, the longer she can't get a big fight in her weight class, the more realistic a fight against Claressa is ultimately going to be. So Claressa, a chance this weekend on DAZN to reestablish herself as the top woman in boxing. Xander Zayas, a chance to establish himself as a world champion and a top Puerto Rican fighter. And we know those Puerto Rican fighters, they love to beat up on the Mexicans, just like you, Sergio. So if you're ready for another world championship opportunity, get down to 154, fight Xander Zayas. Mexico versus Puerto Rico. Those are big fights.
Listen, man, these days I'm more to a cruiserweight than a 154 pounder. And no, I'm not coming back anymore. I enjoy traveling the road with you, Chris Mannix. Or I should say Todd Grisham.
Why are you calling me Todd Grisham?
I said Todd Grisham is who I enjoy traveling the road with.
Okay. A little backhanded compliment / slap.
There you go. Now you got it.
Okay. All right. Well, I take Xander Zayas by knockout against you, just to be clear.
So do I.